The winter wind in Chicago had a special kind of sharpness, the kind that made people walk faster and keep their heads down. But not Eva Martinez. On this particular Monday morning, she stood outside the glass doors of TechFix Solutions, the electronics repair store where she had worked for nearly 2 years, and took a long, steady breath. Inside, she could already hear the hum of machines, the clatter of tools, and the low chatter of customers. Mondays were always busy. But today felt different, heavier. Her shift had barely started when a message popped up on the store's group chat: a regional manager visiting today. Be ready. Eva's stomach tightened. Mr. Collins wasn't unfriendly, he was just sharp, observant, and direct. He didn't waste words, and he noticed everything. Especially people. When he arrived at 11 a.m., the entire atmosphere shifted. Co-workers straightened their backs. Conversation softened. Even the customers grew quieter. Eva tried to focus on checking a customer's phone battery, but her mind kept wandering. She knew what was coming. She had been avoiding it for months. Around noon, Mr. Collins walked over to her workspace. Eva, do you have a moment to talk in the back? Her heart sank. The walk to the storage room felt like walking into an exam she didn't study for. Mr. Collins closed the door behind them and placed the monthly performance folder on the table. He flipped through pages and said, "Your numbers are excellent. Customer reviews mention you by name. Your work ethic is strong." Eva waited, knowing there was a but coming. He looked up, meeting her eyes with calm seriousness. "But you need stronger communication skills if you want leadership opportunities." There it was, the truth she feared and the truth she already knew. Eva swallowed hard. I understand, she whispered. Mr. Collins continued, "You're capable. Very capable. But leaders need presence. They need voice. They need confidence. You have the potential, but you're not showing it." He wasn't harsh. He wasn't rude. He was honest. After the meeting, Eva didn't return to the break room. Instead, she stepped out the back door into the cold alley. Her eyes stung, not from the wind, but from embarrassment. She thought of all the times she stayed quiet in meetings, all the times fear held her voice back, all the ideas she never shared. Standing alone in that cold path, with snowflakes drifting around her, Eva made a decision, a firm, brave one. I will learn to speak like a leader. That night, in her small apartment overlooking the frozen Chicago streets, she opened her notebook and wrote 10 steps to becoming a strong speaker. She didn't know all 10 steps yet, but she knew this was the start of something big. The journey had begun that night. After the store closed, Eva took the long route home. Instead of getting off at her usual bus stop, she stayed seated, letting the city lights pass like silent reminders of the future she wanted. She replayed Mr. Collins's words in her mind: leaders need presence. Presence. The word felt heavy, mysterious, almost intimidating. When she reached her apartment, she didn't even take off her coat. She placed her phone on the counter, searched how to gain presence when speaking, and stared at her screen as if it held a secret she had been missing. She found the same advice repeated again and again: posture, breathing, eye contact, calm movement, controlled voice. She stood in front of her hallway mirror and really looked at herself. Tired eyes, slouched shoulders, a posture that said, "I hope nobody notices me." It hurt to see it. She straightened slowly, shoulders back, chin up, feet grounded. For the first time, her reflection looked like a different person, someone who belonged in front of a room. But when she tried to hold the posture, her muscles burned. "Wow," she whispered. "Being confident is exhausting." Still, she practiced for 30 minutes, then an hour, walking slowly, speaking slowly, breathing deeply. She felt strange, uncomfortable, exposed, even, but she kept going. The first test the next morning at TechFix Solutions, the store was packed. Customers stood in line holding laptops, tablets, and cracked phones. The air smelled like coffee and warm circuit boards. Normally, Eva slipped into her work quietly. But today, she walked with intention, her steps slower and steadier than usual. Her coworker, Jenna, noticed immediately. "Whoa," Jenna said. "You look taller." Eva laughed. "Just practicing my posture." Jenna squinted at her. "Is this about Mr. Collins yesterday?" "Kind of," Eva admitted. "I'm trying to work on my communication." "First step, presence." Jenna nodded approvingly. "Honestly? You already look different." Those words boosted Eva more than she expected. A small challenge around noon. A customer stormed in holding a damaged laptop. This thing overheats. I was told it was fixed last week, he snapped. Normally, Eva would step back and let another coworker handle the tension, but today, she took a slow breath and stepped forward. Hi, she said, voice steady, let's take a look together. The customer blinked. Her tone wasn't pushy, but it wasn't timid either. She spoke like someone who knew what she was doing. Eva carefully opened the laptop, checked the fan, and explained the issue clearly. The customer calmed down and eventually apologized for raising his voice. Thank you, he said softly. You handled that better than I did. Eva smiled politely, but inside, she was shocked. She had kept her calm. She had controlled the situation. She had spoken with presence. A new realization after the customer left. Jenna leaned over and whispered, girl, that was leadership. Eva felt warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was progress. That night, she added to her notebook, Step 1, presence, stand tall. Slow down. Breathe. Lead with calm energy. She went to sleep earlier than usual, exhausted but excited. Tomorrow, she would begin Step 2, and she had no idea how deeply it would change her. 2 days after her meeting with Mr. Collins, Eva found herself in the quiet corner of a small Chicago cafe called Lakeview Brews. It was one of those cozy places with dim lights, scratched wooden tables, and soft jazz playing in the background. She came here often, but never to do what she was about to do now. On the table in front of her sat a notebook, a pen, and her phone's voice recorder app. She stared at it nervously. Step 2, voice control, find strength. Find calm. Find clarity. Recording her own voice felt embarrassing, almost painful. What if she sounded strange? What if she didn't sound confident at all? But leaders didn't avoid discomfort. So she pressed record. Hi, my name is Eva Martinez, she began quietly. She cringed at the sound of her voice, too small, too soft, too unsure. She deleted the recording immediately. No, she whispered to herself. Again. Record, speak, listen, delete, repeat. Her voice cracked sometimes. Other times it rushed too fast. But she kept going. After 20 minutes, she decided to try something different. She sat up straighter, placed both feet on the ground, and took a slow, deep breath. Then she said the same sentence, again. This time her voice sounded a little stronger again, almost confident. She didn't notice that the old man at the next table had been listening. When she paused to rest her voice, he leaned over and said kindly, you're practicing something important, aren't you? Eva felt her cheeks warm. Trying to, she admitted. He smiled. Confidence isn't loud. It's controlled. You're on the right track. His word stayed with her. The breakthrough moment that evening at TechFix Solutions, the store was busy again. A young mother with a toddler on her hip came in, tired and flustered. My phone won't turn on and I really need it tonight, she said quickly, her voice shaking. Eva stepped forward, remembering her breathing. Let me take care of it, she said slowly, clearly. Her tone wasn't rushed. It was steady, almost soothing. The woman visibly relaxed. As Eva examined the phone, she explained the issue in calm, clear steps. No filler words. No nervous giggles. No rushing. When the phone finally lit up again, the woman nearly cried from relief. You're amazing, she said. Thank you. But this time, Eva didn't feel shy about the compliment, because for the first time, she had heard it too, in her own voice. A conversation that changed her perspective. Later that night, as her shift was ending, her coworker Henry approached her. Henry was quiet, serious, and not someone who gave compliments easily. But today, he said, I don't know what you're doing, but your voice sounds different. Stronger. Eva's eyebrows lifted. Really? Henry nodded. This place feels more stable when you're talking. That sentence hit her deeply. She never considered that her voice could make others feel secure, safe, grounded. Maybe this was what leaders did, not just speak, but create calm in situations. The new Eva at home, she updated her notebook. Step 2, the leader's voice, speak slowly, breathe deeply, use warm, clear tone, control the room with calm, not volume. She read the list twice, then whispered to herself, I'm getting there. But she had no idea that the next step, Step 3, would test her more than the first two combined, because Step 3 wasn't about posture or voice. It was about words, and choosing the right ones could change everything. On Friday morning, Chicago woke up to a thin layer of snow covering the streets like powdered sugar. Eva stood by her apartment window, watching the city slowly come to life, buses hissing, cars scraping ice off windshields, people rushing with hot coffee in hand. She opened her notebook and under step 2 wrote, next, step 3, clarity. She underlined it twice. Clarity seemed simple, but it wasn't. Eva had grown up in a home where English was spoken as a second language, and whenever she wanted to sound impressive, she used long sentences, complex words, and fast explanations. But leaders didn't do that. Leaders didn't try to sound smart, they tried to make things easy to understand. She realized something painful. Sometimes she spoke in a confusing way because she felt insecure. It was a habit, a shield, something she used to hide her uncertainty. Today, she was going to break that habit. The first challenge comes quickly at TechFix Solutions. The store was unusually busy. A new shipment of devices had arrived. 2 co-workers called in sick, and customers were already forming a line. Jenna rushed to Eva's side with a worried face. Eva, a customer wants to know why their tablet keeps freezing. I explained, but he wants a second opinion. Eva took a breath and walked over. The customer, a middle-aged man wearing a Chicago Bears hoodie, looked frustrated. My tablet keeps stopping. Everyone tells me something different. Can you just explain what's wrong with it? Eva opened the device and quickly saw the issue, too many apps running in the background. Normally, Eva would say something like, well, potentially the internal system is overloaded with processes that are running continuously, which may cause, but today, she remembered step 3.so. She said, your tablet isn't broken. It's just tired. Too many apps are open at the same time. We'll close them and it'll work normally again. Simple, clear, direct. The man blinked, then nodded slowly. That actually makes sense. Thanks. He smiled, a genuine, relieved smile, and walked away. Jenna whispered, you explained that better than anyone in this store. Eva felt a soft warmth inside her chest. This was working. The meeting that surprised everyone. Later that afternoon, the team gathered for a quick staff meeting. Mr. Collins had returned, clipboard in hand. He started going over numbers, updates, and customer reports. Then he paused. I want someone to summarize the plan for next week's workflow changes, he said, looking around. No one stepped forward. Henry looked at the floor. Sam pretended to read something on his phone. Jenna shook her head slightly, and then Mr. Collins's eyes landed on Eva. Eva, want to try? Her heart thumped hard. Before, she would have said no. Before, she would have panicked, but she remembered step 3. She stood straight, breathed slowly, and spoke. Next week, we're splitting tasks into 3 groups: repairs, customer support, and inventory. Repairs focus only on fixing. Support handles the front. Inventory stays organized every day. This will help us work faster and avoid mistakes. The room was quiet, not confused, just listening. Mr. Collins nodded slowly. That, he said, is exactly how a leader communicates. Eva felt her cheeks warm, but this time she didn't look away. A private realization on her walk home: snowflakes landed gently on her scarf. The city lights shimmered in the cold air. Her hands felt warm in her pockets, not because of the weather, but because of something better. As she was changing, becoming clearer, more confident, more herself. In her apartment, she added to her notebook, step 3, clarity. Use simple words, short sentences, explain like you're helping, not impressing. Make your message easy to understand. She took a deep breath and whispered, I'm becoming the person I always wanted to be. But the next step, step 4, would push her even further, because it wasn't about standing tall or speaking clearly. It was about something leaders mastered: storytelling, and Eva had never told a story in her life. The next morning, Chicago was quieter than usual. Snow plows had carved narrow paths through the streets, and the air smelled like winter. Eva sat at her small kitchen table, holding a warm mug of cinnamon coffee, staring at her notebook. She read the next line, step 4, storytelling. Leaders don't just give information, they make people feel something. She placed her mug down and sighed. Storytelling scared her more than anything else. She could practice posture, she could train her voice, she could learn clear language, but telling a story needed emotion. Vulnerability. Pictures created with words. Her family didn't tell stories growing up. They worked long hours, moved apartments often, and lived day to day. There wasn't time for storytelling, but leaders needed it. Today, Eva would learn. A surprising invitation when she arrived at TechFix Solutions. She barely had time to remove her coat before Jenna grabbed her arm. Eva, Mr. Collins is here. Surprise visit. Eva's stomach dropped. Again? That's not the worst part, Jenna said. He wants us to give a short presentation about our customer service improvements. Today. Like, in 20 minutes. Eva felt her heart slam painfully in her chest. Why today? Why so suddenly? No idea, Jenna whispered, but he specifically said he wants you to speak. Eva froze, her palms began to sweat. Her throat tightened. This was it, her first real challenge, her first chance to speak like a leader, and maybe her first opportunity to fail. The moment before the moment the team gathered in the staff room, a narrow space with posters about customer service and boxes stacked in the corners. Mr. Collins stood in front, arms crossed, eyes focused. All right, he said. We've improved our customer ratings this month. I want to hear from someone on the floor about what has changed. Eva? Eva's heartbeat hammered in her ears. Everyone turned to look at her. She swallowed hard and stepped forward. Her voice felt trapped in her chest. Then she remembered step 5. Tell a story, make them feel something, paint the picture. She inhaled deeply. Her eyes drifted to the team, people she worked beside every day. People she respected. People who needed someone to lead. She began softly. 2 weeks ago, a customer came in, a man holding a broken tablet. The room grew quiet. Her voice steadied. He wasn't angry. He was frustrated, tired, and honestly, a little scared. He needed that tablet for work. He told me he felt like his job depended on it. She paused, remembering how she had explained the issue calmly and simply. I didn't give him technical words. I didn't overwhelm him. I just told him the truth in a simple way. And I promised we would do our best. A few co-workers nodded. Eva continued when he left, smiling. When he said, "Thank you for helping me understand," that's when I realized something. She looked up directly at Mr. Collins. We're not just fixing devices. We're building trust. People come here stressed, worried, unsure. It's our job to help them feel safe. Silence. A deep, meaningful silence. Then Mr. Collins nodded once, a slow, approving nod. That, he said, is the kind of message leaders deliver. Eva felt her breath return to her body. She had done it, not with technical explanations, not with complicated words, but with a story, her story. A new confidence. After the meeting, co-workers came up one by one. Jenna hugged her. You were amazing. Henry crossed his arms but smiled slightly. Good story. You connected with everyone. Even Sam, who was usually sarcastic, gave her a fist bump. Eva felt a warmth in her chest, not from pride, but from relief. She could tell a story, she could move people, she could lead. That night, she wrote in her notebook, Step 4, storytelling, share real experiences, describe emotions, make people see the moment. A story is stronger than statistics. She read the words twice and whispered, I'm finally becoming someone I never thought I could be. But her journey wasn't over. Next was Step 5, a skill. Every true leader needed a purpose, and purpose would push Eva into the hardest moment of her transformation. Saturday mornings at Tech Fix Solutions were usually loud, busy, and full of small emergencies, cracked screens, forgotten passwords, panicked customers trying to recover lost data. But this Saturday felt different. There was a strange heaviness in the air, like the whole store was holding its breath. When Eva arrived, she immediately noticed the tension. Jenna stood behind the counter biting her lip. Henry was pacing near the back room. Sam, who was normally joking around, sat silently on a stool. What happened? Eva asked, setting down her bag. Jenna looked up with worry in her eyes. It's about next month. They might close our store. The words hit Eva like a punch. What? Why? Low regional performance, Henry said flatly. Other stores are doing better. Collins is coming today to talk to us. Eva felt her stomach tighten. The store was her second home. The team was like family. The idea of losing this place felt unbearable. She took a deep breath and whispered, Okay. Stay calm. But deep down, she wasn't calm. She was terrified. The announcement at noon, Mr. Collins arrived. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't carrying his usual clipboard. Everyone gathered in the small staff room. The air felt thick. Eva could hear her own heartbeat. Mr. Collins sighed softly before speaking. Corporate is reviewing all stores in our district. Several locations might close. That includes us. Jenna gasped. Sam swore under his breath. Henry clenched his jaw. Eva felt frozen. Then Mr. Collins continued, but there's still a chance. If we show strong leadership, better organization, and improved communication, we might save this store. He paused, scanning the room, and honestly, he added, we need someone who can stand up and represent this team. Someone who can speak clearly, calmly, and with purpose. His eyes landed directly on Eva. She felt the world stopped. Eva, he said, would you talk to the regional board next week, just 5 minutes, explaining why this store matters? Jenna squeezed Eva's arm. Henry nodded slightly. Sam whispered, you got this. But Eva's mind was spiraling. Speak to the board, corporate leaders, people who could shut the store down with a single decision. Her hands began to shake. I don't know if I'm ready, she whispered. Mr. Collins stepped closer, his voice steady. You've been preparing for this without realizing it. Your posture, your voice, your clarity, your storytelling, it's all leading to this moment. He paused. We don't just need a strong speaker. We need someone with purpose. And that's you. Eva looked at the team, their worried faces, their hope, their trust. If she said no, they might lose everything. She took a slow breath, the same breathing she practiced for voice control, and for the first time in her life, she felt something shift inside her. She wasn't speaking for herself anymore, she was speaking for them. She met Mr. Collins's eyes and said softly, I'll do it. Her deepest fear that evening, Eva returned home exhausted. She placed her keys on the counter, turned on the small kitchen light, and sank into a chair. Her heart still felt heavy. She had agreed to something huge. What if she froze? What if her voice cracked? What if she failed, and the store closed because of her? She pressed her hands over her face and let out a shaky breath. Then she forced herself to open her notebook. Under Step 4, she turned to a blank page and wrote Step 5, Purpose. Speak for something bigger than yourself. Know why your words matter. When you care, people feel it. Purpose gives courage. She stared at the page for a long time, then she wrote one more sentence, my purpose is my team. Everything changed after she wrote that. She wasn't just learning to speak like a leader anymore, she was becoming one. The next morning in Washington, D.C., James arrived early to the Community Leadership Center. The sun wasn't fully up yet, and the city felt calm, almost like it was holding its breath. Today was important. He had been asked to lead a citywide meeting about youth employment, something thousands of families deeply cared about. As he walked toward the building, he repeated the 6 leadership speech steps quietly in his mind, the same ones he had been practicing since arriving in the United States. Stand with purpose, speak with calm confidence, use simple language, but powerful ideas, tell real stories, pause, and let people think. End with a vision inside. Volunteers rushed around with papers, microphones, and coffee cups. Everyone looked stressed except James. He surprised himself. He felt calm. Not fearless, but focused. A young intern approached him and said nervously, Sir, there's a big problem. The keynote speaker cancelled. We need someone to open the event, and everyone voted for you. James froze. He had planned to speak later in the meeting, but opening the event meant setting the tone for the entire city gathering. It meant talking to business leaders, teachers, parents, politicians, and students, all at once. His heart beat faster, his hands felt cold, his mind said, what if I fail? But then something quiet inside him answered, this is why you came to the US. This is your moment. He walked to the empty stage and placed his hands on the podium. He took a long, slow breath and looked across the chairs that would soon be filled with hundreds of people. He remembered Maria's voice from their coaching sessions. Leaders aren't born brave. They become brave by choosing to speak when it matters. For the first time, James believed it. He wasn't here to impress anyone. He wasn't here to sound perfect. He was here to help. That realization changed everything. Finally, he looked up at the blank auditorium and said softly, as if practicing for the real crowd, yes. I'm ready. He didn't know it yet, but this speech would become the turning point of his life in America. An hour later, the auditorium in Washington, D.C. was completely full. People kept pouring in, teachers, business owners, college students, parents, community leaders. There was a soft wave of conversations, the kind that fills a room with nervous energy. Backstage, James felt his heartbeat in his ears. A volunteer clipped a tiny microphone to his shirt and whispered, "You'll do great." Then the stage manager gave him a quiet signal. It was time. James walked out into the bright white lights, and for a moment, the room looked like a blur. But then he remembered Step 1, stand with purpose. He placed his feet firmly, lifted his shoulders, and let the silence settle. Silence, real leaders don't rush. He looked across the audience, and slowly, very slowly, people stopped talking. One by one, heads turned toward him. The light softened. The room grew still, then he began. Good morning, everyone. I want to tell you a story, not about statistics, not about problems, but about a boy I met last week in Southwest DC. His voice was controlled, steady. Step 2, speak with calm confidence. He told them about Brandon, a 16-year-old who worked at a grocery store after school, who wanted to become an engineer but didn't know how to start. James described how the boy said, "I don't think anyone like me can make it." The audience shifted. They were listening now. James continued with step 3, use simple language, but powerful ideas. We keep saying young people need opportunities. But sometimes, they just need someone to believe in them, someone to tell them they belong in the future of this city. He let the sentence hang in the air. Step 5, pause. The room was silent. Not one cough. Not one whisper. Then he moved into step 4, tell real stories. He shared how he once doubted himself too, how he came to the US feeling lost, how someone took a chance on him, and how that single moment changed his life. The audience leaned forward. Finally, he ended with step 6, a vision. I believe Washington, D.C. can become the city where no young person feels invisible, where every dream has a door, and every door is open. Then he stepped back for a moment. There was no reaction. Just quiet, and then, a long, deep applause filled the room. People stood up. Some wiped tears. Others nodded with admiration. James felt his chest warm. He had done it. He had spoken like a leader, clear, calm, connected, and full of purpose. But what happened after the speech would surprise him even more, because this moment wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something much bigger. When the applause finally settled, James stepped off the stage with trembling hands, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization that he had just crossed a line he once thought impossible. He felt taller, lighter, as if the weight he'd carried for years had quietly fallen away, but he didn't have much time to breathe. A woman in a navy blue blazer approached him with quick, confident steps. She looked like someone who had spent decades moving through important rooms without hesitation. Mr. Carter, she said, extending her hand, I'm Angela Rhodes from the mayor's office. James blinked in surprise. The mayor's office, her handshake was firm, professional, and warm. I want to congratulate you. Your speech, well, everyone back there was talking about it. You have a way of connecting with people. A real leader's presence. James felt heat rise to his face. Thank you, he said softly, still catching up. Angela smiled. We're organizing a major youth initiative next month, citywide. We need strong communicators. People who can inspire, not just inform. Someone suggested your name, and after hearing you today, I understand why. James nearly forgot how to breathe. She continued, I'd like to meet with you and discuss collaborating with the city. This could be a big opportunity to serve, to influence, to grow. Are you interested? Interested, he felt his heart swell, but he answered calmly, yes, absolutely. Great, she said. Expect an email this evening. Congratulations, James. Today, you made an impact. When she walked away, he stood there in disbelief. He remembered arriving in the US with nothing but a suitcase, broken English, and a dream he wasn't sure he deserved. And now, someone from the mayor's office wanted him to help shape the future of the city. As he walked down the hallway, people stopped him to shake his hand. Great speech. You inspired my students. Thank you for sharing your story. He wasn't used to this kind of attention, but with every handshake, his confidence grew. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the city. Washington, D.C. looked different now, not intimidating, but full of possibilities. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through messages, and noticed one from Maria, his communication coach. I heard what happened today. I am proud of you. This is only the beginning. James smiled to himself. She was right. This wasn't the finish line. This was the door to a new chapter, one he never imagined he would reach. But tomorrow, something even more unexpected would happen, something that would test everything he learned. The next morning, Washington, D.C. was cold and bright. James walked toward the community center again, but this time his steps felt different, steady, confident, grounded. He wasn't the man who arrived in the US confused and unsure. He wasn't even the man who walked onto the stage yesterday. He was someone new, someone stepping into leadership. Inside, the staff greeted him with warm smiles. Word of his speech had spread faster than he expected. People he had never met were saying things like, "Hey, that's the guy who inspired the whole room. You really changed something yesterday. My students can't stop talking about you." James didn't know how to respond, so he simply said, "Thank you," again and again, quietly grateful. Before he could reach his office, he noticed a young man standing alone near the staircase, a teenager wearing an oversized hoodie, staring at the floor. Something about him felt familiar. James approached him gently. "You okay?" he asked. The boy looked up slowly. His voice was barely above a whisper. I heard your speech yesterday. My teacher made us watch the video this morning. I wanted to talk to you." James smiled. "Sure. What's your name?" "Brandon." James froze. Brandon, the boy he had spoken about in his speech, the real one. "I work after school at the grocery store," Brandon said, "just like you said. And I want to be an engineer too. But I don't know how to start. My family, we don't have much. Nobody really talks to me about the future." His voice cracked a little. For a moment, James saw himself at that age, lost, unsure, waiting for someone to tell him he wasn't invisible. So he took a breath, looked Brandon in the eyes, and said, "You know, yesterday I stood in front of a big crowd, and I told them you belong in the future of this city. I didn't say that as an idea. I meant you." Brandon's eyes widened. "You're smart," James continued. "And I'm going to help you. Not someday. Today." The boy swallowed hard. "Really? Really?" They sat on the stairs, talking for almost an hour, about school, engineering, job programs, confidence, even fear. James listened carefully, offering guidance the way Maria once offered him. When Brandon finally stood to leave, he said, "Thanks, Mr. Carter. No one ever talked to me like that before." James felt his chest warm because in that moment, he realized something powerful. Leadership isn't about microphones, stages, applause, or city officials. Leadership is about lifting one person at a time, seeing potential where others see problems, and speaking life into people who doubt themselves. As he watched Brandon walk away, James whispered to himself, "This is why I'm here." Later that evening, an email arrived from the mayor's office confirming a meeting date. His future was opening wider than ever. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt ready. He had learned how to speak like a leader. Now he was learning how to live like one. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this was just the beginning of the story.